All right, I want to talk a little baseball. Steve Gardner, always kind enough to join us, his weekly spot on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Does a great job covering baseball for USA Today on a Rating Thursday. Gives us a couple moments. How you been, pal?
Good, Rich. How about you?
I'm doing well. Let's get into the Phillies right away. And listen, I mean, you look up, second best record in the NL. Only behind the Atlanta Braves. Go figure, right? But I'll tell you, it really is amazing. I actually said this yesterday. The teams, and it was more aligned with the Braves, but the teams, the really good teams in baseball, the young teams, the teams that we watch like the Yankees and the Red Sox in Houston, and the Braves to a lesser extent, they all have great position players. And the reason I brought it up is because a couple guys were talking about the Mets the other day, who we'll get into a second, and the Mets kind of did it backwards. They wanted all the pitching, and they wanted to build around the pitching. So they should have done it the other way, and now they're paying the price. But we'll get to the rest of the NL East. But how about the Phillies and their pitching over the last 9 or so games? It's actually been the best in baseball. It's absolutely incredible to watch what they're doing. It is. I mean, you have Steve, over their last 9 games, their starting pitching has given up just 8 earned runs in 56 innings. Their ERA is 1.29.
I'll tell you what, it's something I don't know that we could have seen this coming, to tell you the truth. You know, it looked like that the Phillies at the beginning of the season, you know, some good young players, and we talked about the offseason acquisitions, but the pitching to mature as quickly as it has, definitely coming out of the blue. You look at a guy like Nick Pivetta, who last year was not great, and this year has seemed like turned the corner in his second season. And 11 strikeouts against the Orioles, amazing. He's making so many batters look foolish, swinging and missing. It's just, he's kind of emblematic of what the Phillies have been able to do. I mean, he's just been outstanding the last couple of times out. And as the pitching is gone, the Phillies have taken off.
And that's one of the reasons, too, I talked about Nola. I think he's turning into that bona fide ace. And one of the more reasons I screamed for him to go out and get Arrieta. Hernandez has been a pleasant surprise. Obviously, Hernandez yesterday with the 3-run 6 with the leadoff homer to right. Santana, the numbers might not be there, but again, he keeps an inning alive with a 2-out walk. He's playing great defense as well. I'm curious, how about Kapler last night? Again, he takes the ball from Ramos and he goes back to Nearest. Now, I've had a lot of people tweet and text in already asking about that. Is that over managing, or is that I want to instill a little more confidence in this guy after he blows a save Friday night against the Mets?
I don't know. I think to get one out when you've got a 4-run, 3-run, 4-run lead, something like that, it's a lot of managers. It's funny. A lot of managers manage to the save statistic, and here, if not a save situation, when he brings in Neris at the end, to me that was kind of a little bit of over managing just to do it. I don't know that getting one out and finishing a game is enough to give a guy who might be struggling, that boost of confidence. So I can't really figure out what he was trying to do. Is it a matchup kind of thing? Why he went to?
That's what he said afterwards. Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah. He always, but the thing that bothered me a little bit is that Kapler goes out and Ramos has been absolutely dominant. I mean, so right. I think that's why a lot of people will look at it as over managing. Now, Kapler said in spring training he would run late game bullpen based on matchups, and he never really named a closer. You take away those 2 blown saves by Neris, the one against the Mets, and then prior to that, Washington. This team's winning. They're on a 9-game winning streak right now.
Yeah. Now, I wonder, does that do anything to Ramos's confidence level or anything like that? I mean, he's pitching super well, and all of a sudden he gets pulled at the last out of the game. That's another question. But I don't mind. Here's the thing, Rich. I don't mind managers, and I would encourage it actually. Managers not managing by the save rule and always bringing in the closer, even if you got a 3-run lead and all that sort of stuff. But this, to me, just seems overly managing, just to do it because you can, sort of thing.
That's a good point.
I don't really see the logic in it.
No, that's a fair point. Listen, I know Crawford. He's struggling. I know he's been nicked up as well. Knapp has been struggling as well, but the pitching has carried them, which is a positive, especially the way everything else is breaking in the NL East. I mean, then you look at the Mets. I mean, if you are ownership yesterday, to have the fans endure that garbage, and that's what it was. It was flat out garbage. They should get tickets for free for a game. They should. And this is still a team that's 20-19. But my goodness, how bad is it getting here with what's going on with the Mets? With guys are struggling, you got to deal with Cespedes, the pitching again, some injuries, Callaway's overmanaged. Is it going to get worse?
I don't know. It seems like it can't get any worse, can it? But yes, when we say that, sometimes it does. I remember last week, Rich, you and I were talking about Cespedes and the injury, and it continued to fester for a week before they decide to finally put him on the disabled list. It's the same old Mets in dealing with injuries. And, I don't know what, pulling DeGrom after an inning, I think that was probably a wise move, but still, it just seems like there's always something with this club. And when you put the media spotlight on every single thing, it gets really ugly really quickly, especially when you end up losing a 12-1 game and nobody does anything. There are so many things to point fingers at, so many people to point fingers at. And yeah, even though the Mets are over 500, it feels like this is almost as bad as last season.
What's more alarming is, first of all, I don't think Cespedes is ever going to be the same player. I just don't think he's ever going to be healthy again. He's not going to be able to play 150-something odd games a year. And then what's more alarming is that the Mets have two aces and their rotation is still a complete mess. That would scare the bejeebas out of me if I'm a Met fan, because it's telling me that the manager who was managing the staff perfectly is so overwhelmed right now. I mean, listen, Matz has been clearly the best. Wheeler, I just don't know if it's a mental thing. The ERA is right around 6. You got DeGrom again. DeGrom is still DeGrom. Syndergaard hasn't been quite as dominant as we've seen in the past. I just don't know what to make of the starting rotation going forward.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and we haven't even talked about Matt Harvey and his exit from the team. And what that means, I don't know. Vargas has been awful as well. I mean, it's like you thought that the Mets starting pitching would be the thing that would carry them, and so far this season it sure hasn't. And I don't know what the answer is. There are a lot of injuries in the bullpen too. You could point to that and say that's contributed. Other injuries, Frazier and Cespedes and everything else. But yeah, it's just a team that we thought had a lot of depth at the beginning of the season, and now that's being tested as well. It's certainly not going in the direction that Mets fans want it to.
Do you think they will be sellers come July? And the reason I bring it up is because there's going to be a couple teams out there that can definitely use another starter. And I'm wondering, okay, maybe Lugo, Gazelman, maybe they get a shot in one of those back three slots, or maybe down the road the Mets decide to call up a kid like Corey Oswalt, and then you've got other guys that are potentially disposable, whether it's a Syndergaard or DeGrom.
It's hard to say. I don't know how much interest there would be, and what the return would be for the Mets. Even my dog is not happy with that idea.
Well, the dog has chimed in before, so
exactly. I think you get too much Mets talk, and he just gets really frustrated. So, aren't you? Good boy, Thor.
Yeah.
Be quiet now.
Your dog is named Thor?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, all right. I was all right. I heard Thor for a minute. Josh's eyes lit up.
He was for about 20 seconds.
All right, I got you.
It hasn't calmed him down yet.
All right. Let's stick to the NL for a couple of moments. How about the Los Angeles Dodgers, right? I mean, this is a team that's in a major tailspin right now. They've dropped 9 out of their last 10. They're buried in the NL West. You almost start to think the issues kind of run a little deeper than some of these injuries that they've been dealing with. But they've been playing really bad baseball over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and especially when you're losing to the Marlins and battling them for one of the worst records in all of the league. It has, and I don't know really what the answer is for the Dodgers. How do you turn things around so quickly or at all at this point? You're getting Justin Turner back. You figure that should at least give them a little bit of a boost. But yeah, this is one of those things. I don't know if it's the post World Series hangover or what, but this is certainly not the Dodgers team that we saw last year or even at the beginning of the season, really. It's one that's just taken quite a huge U-turn and trying to struggle to get things back on track.
Before I let you get out of here, again, Steve Gardner from USA Today does a great job covering baseball as a weekly spot on a Thursday right here on 97.3, joining us on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline. The Robbie Cano situation, suspended 80 games, the PEDs and whatnot. To me, I looked at him as a Hall of Famer. I think it takes a major hit, and we went into this a little bit yesterday. I guess from a mind standpoint, he signs that contract with the Mariners. Even if he was taking PEDs at that time, you would think with that type of money in that contract and the way his career was going up, the projections, and really you can make the case he would have been a Hall of Famer. Why would you even risk that? Why do you even put that out there? Because if no one knows that you're doing it and you're getting away with it, it's almost as though he kind of kept pushing the envelope a little bit. And I don't buy into his excuse at all, but I think, if anything, what we've seen over the last 10 to 15 years, the writers who haven't given an inch, I don't believe when he retires they're going to give an inch with him either.
No, we'll see a lot more test cases. I mean, Alex Rodriguez is going to be coming up for a Hall of Fame eligibility before Cano does, so I think we'll have a precedent at least. I think of A-Rod a lot, or at least I have in the last few days when learning about Cano, because that was kind of what A-Rod said about why he took, what he took is because he'd already gotten the big contract and he felt the pressure to live up to that. And so people take those steroids or whatever for different reasons. And, some of them, some players do to just stay in the league and continue to get a big league paycheck. And then you look at the other guys who are stars and say, why are they doing it? And it comes back to, again, the perception of having to live up to what you established for the first part of your career. So I imagine that could possibly be one of the things. Certainly we can't read his mind, but it seems like that might be one of the reasons why. And for us as laymen and observers of the game and fans of the game, it's impossible to understand that mindset. But yet when you're an elite athlete and you've been one, maybe that's what goes through your mind.
No, it's a fair point. And listen, he's largely lived up to that investment. But to me, 10 years, 240 playing in Seattle is not 10 years, 240 playing in New York. That's right. I mean, but you bring up a very interesting point, and it's unfortunate too, because to me he had the path of a guy that was going to go right into the Hall of Fame, and then you have Cashman come out and say what he says. He doesn't have to say it on the record, but now you know what he's thinking or what he was thinking back then.
Well, A-Rod and Melky Cabrera were two of Cano's best friends on that Yankees team when they were all there together. And we saw what happened to those two guys, and now what happened to Cano. Maybe that's what Cashman had. You have a whole lot of factors to go through when you're considering a big outlay like that for a free agent, and maybe that was part of the decision-making process, even if he doesn't go out and actually say that. In so many words.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need, your silence speaks, right? It says everything. So, all right, well, listen, I'll let you get back to the Dodgers and the Marlins with that 12:05 first pitch. That's just horrible, by the way.
It's bad baseball.
It is bad baseball. You can probably count everyone on the TV set in the stadium in that one. So, all right, listen, great stuff as always. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll talk next week. I always appreciate the insight, pal.
Excellent. Take care, Rich.
All right, you got it. Steve Gardner joins us on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline from USA Today.